Hi, welcome to the small shed. This Saturday we're back in the garage, hopefully getting on with the bench. See you in a minute. Now, having got the boxing done the other week, I've got to start and rearrange the rest of the garage to get the bench done. It involves quite a lot of moving stuff around. One of the things that's different to the shed was that I built the shed off-site, assembled it here, and then worked into it slowly and filled it and worked on it in a reasonably organised manner. The garage, I can't take the stuff anywhere else that's already in there. So when you want to work on one area, you've got to then start and dismantle stuff first from it to get that area clear, put that stuff somewhere else, and so on. So it's quite involved to get anything done. So I want to get the bench built, but the first thing I've got to do is to actually move some of the cupboards around and put the wall cupboards on one side of the garage onto the ducting that we built the other week. So let's go out and have a look, make a start and see how that works. So the work in the garage has been a bit different to the way I would normally work on a project. I normally like to plan things down to the last degree, but in this case I've tended to work with more what I've got and what's lying around and try and cobble it all together. So I spent some time working with the existing units that I'd got, and an old drawer that I'd found in the garage, and some posts that were from a bunk, to try and put the whole lot together and get some sort of an idea of how the legs and supports would work, how strong it would be. I'd got these bunk bed legs that I was just trying to fill the holes with dowels and things like that to just see how it would look and put it all together, and that way it saves money. The whole thing won't cost anything because I'm using scrap rather than going out and buying new stuff. Now the other problem I've got is moving things around, and I've started to put some of the wall units from the other side of the shed onto the positions that they will finally take once the wall's been plastered. Or the boxing has been plastered. But that of course means that stuff had to be emptied out and then moved across, and then new units put up over that side, and then where they had been I was taking down the units from above where the new bench will be, again to clear myself some more space. So it's been quite a few days, probably a week or more, of just moving stuff around and not actually getting any further. But what it's ended up is that these empty units that were emptied of stuff when I was doing the first clear out for the boxing are now mounted in their final position, and I could then get some more of the stuff that was lying around in the shed put away properly into these units. And again, it may well be they will have to come off the wall, but to be able to just have to take two of those units off, empty them out, paint the wall and put them back is a much easier thing once it's all organised. It's beginning to get rid of some of the things that were just sitting on the floor and things I couldn't find a home for. Right, so after a lot of messing around and moving around, I've finally got to the point where I'm at the position where the bench is, and I haven't got too much stuff to move to get out the way, so I can start and fabricate the bench. I'm using some about 3x3 uprights that we've got from an old bed. Same with all the other timber, it's all come from a bed, just been planed up a bit to get the varnish off. I'm going to put uprights there with the bench on top, running front to back. I'm going to use the remaining wall cupboards cut down underneath, two of those 500mm apart, and then there'll be another intermediate post, so that the bench should take a fair amount of hammer. And then I've got these plastic trays which I bought from the recycling shop some ages ago, they're going to go on the top deck, just underneath that bench with 2 deep, so that should give me quite a lot of small storage, and nuts and bolts and tools and things. And then I've also got a very nice drawer that was made some time ago in oak that I shall refurbish, and that will go over the top of one of the other sides, so that we'll have one side with that in, one side with those in, and then below that there'll be room for the spare engines and things as I work on them. Rip all that out and get it cleared up. So all I need to do now is just get rid of the engine parts temporarily. I can clean up the last bits of carpet that are down there and take the old bench out, which is solid enough, but it's only got a hollow core door on top, and obviously I want to paint the walls and get it all tidied up that way. So that's roughly the setup for the first half of the bench. There'll be an apron along the front, there'll be a bench top on top of that. These will be cut down lower, and then I'll have the drawer on one of them and the little blue boxes on the other side, and then that'll leave room underneath for the storage of spares and engines and things. The plinth runs through behind the legs, and then we'll run through underneath the wall units that I've put on the boxing. They were set to work from that level, and then when it gets to the next section, which I want to be narrower, the plinth will continue on, and the legs for the rest of the bench will be behind that level, so the bench will step back about 90 to 100 millimeters, I think. Right, so that's the front and back frames made now. All I've got to do is do some front to back supports to hold these boxes from underneath, and they'll run between that post and the one at the back to either side of that one and one over there. And that should, along with the top which will hold the fronts to the backs, give me what I want. So that's the basic structure done. It's heavy but not stupidly heavy. More solid than I would have ever thought, really. It's not even got any racking in it at the moment. You can't twist stuff side to side even without the boxes in the bottom to stiffen it up. So it's far better than I had hoped for on that respect. All I need to do now is cut the top pieces, which will be going like that. And although they look a bit rough at the moment, I just wanted to get them planed up first and then cut to length. But once that's done, they come out quite nicely. It's a good solid piece of timber. But I mean, that is far more strong than I'd hoped for. Just need to pin these down front and back into the rails. But that's great. Happy with that. Let's go and plane these up now. One of the problems I've got is that some of these joists have had concrete on them, and I really don't want that getting on the, well, getting into the planer. It's bad enough, the normal stuff. but concrete I think will wreck the blades completely, so I'll probably try and sand that off with a belt sander first. Right, that's sorted the base. I've had a rethink and had to rearrange it slightly because to get the engine in I needed to drop that bottom section out altogether. Now, as I mentioned, the timber I was using was old joists from a factory unit, some of which had concrete on that I was getting off with the belt sander. But once this stuff is put through the planer, it produces a really nice piece of timber really, and I was essentially working on a principle that I'd seen done with, I think it was 2-inch maple in a workshops that I built, or I was working for a firm that built some motor workshops for a bus company, I think, many years ago, and they basically just had strips like this running front to back on benches, and it just gives the ability to take stuff out if something gets really badly damaged, or after a couple of years you can just turn them upside down and refinish the other side. So I'm not assuming they're going to get that much damage, but it is a good hard wearing sort of finish. Just made an awful mess in the shed, and a huge amount of sawdust. So then, as a last trial fit, I've just put them together on the bench just to see how many I'd got, and that's produced what I intended to, a nice solid bench that once it's all assembled should give me years of use. And I'm going to leave it at that point because there's a lot more work to be done, which will come up in a second video. So there we are for the moment. That's the bench in its early stages. I'm not taking it any further at the moment. We've got the top on it. I've got to come back to it now and get the drawer with some sliders in it underneath and sort some storage out for these blue boxes that fit underneath as well on the other side. And I'll then do a second video which will do that and deal with the extension area, which has got the compressor underneath it and whatever I'm putting on top. I'm not quite sure what I'm using as a surface for the bench down the far end. It won't be as substantial as that, but it will be something presumably timber or something that's splash proof. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm thinking of getting a parts washer. So we'll see how that goes. Hope it was of interest, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week when we're doing something different. See you then. Bye.